Hello and welcome to Steading. Um, this is another game that I'm playing in the Games for One or More bundle. This is very intense. Let's make something a little bit less intense. This is another game in the wonderful Games for One or More bundle that's available on itch.io right now. It is a bundle of 7 great solo games for $15. And I've been going through and playing them all so far with just one character, which is kind of really fun and interesting. The premise of this game is that you are a witch, and you are finding a new home. This is a little journaling game, about just playing, it's a little journaling game, about being a witch and making a new home. As we saw, Zsofia started getting into some more magic. So I think this is, in fact, a really, really great I scrolled. You're not supposed to see those rules. I think this is a really great place to go after things started getting real magical in the Land Whispers. We got some unicorns, we got some magic stone circles, so we got some dragons. Just to kind of go back, we played session 0 first, and we created Zsofia. We learned that before she went off on her travels, she lived in the town of Baratsk with 3 parents, and 2 of them were perfumers. Let me put some more of that music up a little bit up. 2 of them were perfumers, and one of them was a troubadour. She didn't know if she wanted to become a perfumer herself, so her stepfather, Miklos the troubadour, recommended that she go travel and see the world. When she traveled, she started to make a little home in kind of a forested area near an old battlefield that nothing had been able to grow on. Outside of town, excuse me. Outside of town, because she came from quite a full house and she wanted to be alone. While she was there, kind of eking out a living, learning to become self-sufficient, she started to develop. She started to build her own house, to sell herbs, and she lived fairly simply. While she lived there, she met, what were their names? Lajos and Joseph. Lajos and Joseph. 2 former nobles who were in love and ran away together. to kind of live their own lives. And she took pity on their state of not really knowing what to do with themselves. And she sort of gave them a home and, didn't give them a home. She let them stay in her land, but said they had to build their own home, which they did. It turns out that Lajos was quite an excellent cook, and had a real mind for mechanics, and Miklos was a wonderful carver. While she was living on this land, she started to have this strange connection with the unicorns that lived on the battlefield, which was a surprise because unicorns weren't supposed to exist. Neither were dragons. But she saw the human body and 7 skulls of the dragons that live there, or that were rumored to once live there. This really scared Lajos, and they began to be on slightly shaky terms. Excuse me. Despite the fact that they shared the same religion, and both alone in away from society began to find new solace in this religion, or at least Zsofia found new solace in the religion of her childhood. What else happened? Lots of things happened. She right near the end of her stay there, or the end of our game, she discovered a stone circle, which was an old magic circle, an old place of power. Lajos decided that it should be removed, broken apart, which is what they decided to do, but the air changed, and Zsofia stopped feeling like it was really her home. Lajos and Josef were talking about having children, and they did bear a child, Zsolt, and Zsofia decided that it was time for her to move on to a place that felt more like home, and let this small family flourish in the place that they had built, promising to visit for the child. She left just after the child's first birthday, promising to come back and make the visit for the second birthday. And that's where we left her. Now things are scary, apparently. I think what happens is that Zsofia and I'm going to do a little bit of a prelude. This is a very kind of, Steading is a light, kind of quick game. But I think we can spend some time figuring out how exactly she got or how exactly Zsofia got from where she is to Steading. Hey, Dan, welcome. We're playing Steading. So Zsofia, I think she goes out across that old scarred battlefield. She leaves quite early in the morning. While Lajos and Joseph and Jolt are all asleep. She said their goodbyes last night, and it would be too hard to do them again, so she leaves before they wake up. And she doesn't really know where to go or what to do. Is it a letter type RPG? It's a journaling game. And I don't think she goes through the battlefield. I think it's a little bit too scary for her right now. But what she does is she goes down that kind of slightly overgrown, less used path that led to the prayer house. And there was a path beyond it. And she starts walking along that path. Says a quick prayer at the prayer house before she goes, and just starts walking. So, I don't know what kind of date structure they have. Is like session 0? A little bit. It's a little more free-form. Session 0, we had prompts to answer. I'm doing a little bit of preamble because I've been playing this anthology style. So I took Zsofia from session 0 and I put her into the Land Whispers, and now I'm putting her into Steading, so I'm just kind of creating the connecting material. But I haven't thought about the date system for this world. I think maybe it's God, I don't know. I think it is the 23rd day of (23rd day of the sun). Today, and I'm writing in first person for Zsofia. I walked. I have been walking for many days, but today felt significant enough to write about. hate this. Today felt significant enough to write about. There isn't anyone. This is not classical music. I was told this was classical. There isn't any sign of. Am I using? Yeah, I'm using a PDF version. Yeah. There isn't any sign of people or settlement near on the path I walk, but it feels strange. A long grassy path cutting through the forest. And what this is inspired by, this idea of there's just these like tall green grasses along this dirt path and forest on either side, is when I was a kid, growing up, we used to go to this, in the summers, we used to go to this family cottage country house in Quebec, and it was very, very close to an old border between the United States and Canada. And what they do along the border, not all of it, but some of it, is that they will clear cut along the border lines, I guess for easier monitoring. And so the forest is on either side, but you have kind of this like long skinny path. This wasn't a border that was really in use. It wasn't anywhere near a border crossing, and it wasn't super monitored. And so this grass had kind of grown up against it. I suppose the border looks very, very different now, but things are a lot tighter than it was when I was a kid. But I did love this idea of there was just this like one hallway of like meadow in between all of the forest. Except in this world, instead of like weird political boundaries and scariness, it's just magic, probably. The air here feels familiar. Like it used to in my old home before we broke the circle. I think It must be magic. I spent so long sleeping in the ground. It feels like maybe the magic sleeping in the ground. Well water. I spent so long sleeping in the ground and drinking that well water. It feels like maybe the magic has... No, thank you. No, thank you again. Has seeped into me. I wonder if it is a part of Milosh and Joseph now too. I wonder if it had any effect on little Jordan. And now that I've done this little entry of kind of combining everything, we will get into the first phase, which is where we describe what the Steading is like when we arrive. And discover a little bit more about what our magic is like. Today, I came Today the path opened up into a clearing. It was another beautiful meadow. Not another, it was a beautiful meadow with the same grasses and flowers. That lined the path. It was shaped almost like the path. It was almost like the path was spilling out onto the ground. The forest and changing the land. Through a small, it was almost like the path was spilling out into the forest and changing the land itself. Now I know it must have been magic. A small copse of birch trees then the path went through a small copse of birch trees towards a village. But welcome back. What was most interesting was the cottage in the middle of the field. So yeah, she goes through this long path, and then yeah, there's just this long kind of grassy path, and it just kind of spills out into a clearing in the woods, or at the edge of the woods almost. There's meadow with the same grasses, and there's a little kind of copse of birch trees, and the path goes on into a village. But there's this cottage in the middle, and I think it's like your typical, you know, quaint country cottage. Probably some kind of hay or grass roof. At least insulating the roof. Yeah, probably made of clay and stone. You know, your typical like medieval fantasy witches cottage. It looked I just want the cottage looked to be in good repair and totally abandoned. I walked up to the door and knocked. I walked up to the door. I put too many commas. Me and my commas places. But as soon as I touched the wood, it intricate patterns of light appeared all over. Did you hear that? I hope you didn't hear that. I'm gonna unplug that so it doesn't make that noise some more. Sorry about that. My phone was plugged in. Appeared all over the door. And the door seemed to open with a sigh. This is your house now. I could hardly believe the voice I heard in my head. It sounded kind and warm and almost grandfatherly. I wasn't going to believe a house. When houses just start talking to you and saying it's your house now, maybe best to be skeptical. I wasn't going to believe a talking house just like that. So I went towards the town to see who, if anyone, knew about it. I went into an inn and offered to make dessert in exchange for my the rest of my meal and maybe even a place to stay. This town had peaches. How many years has it been since I've had a peach? At least 2, maybe 3. As I was making the turnovers, a man came into the tavern. Activate those sentences. An injured man came into the tavern. He explained that there had been some kind of plowing accident. The innkeeper's spouse arrived to quickly went to work trying to tending to the man's wounds. I had just taken my turnovers out of the oven when he was finished hatching. When the farmer innkeepers was finished patching was finished being patched up. I offered one to the man who I learned was named Fedence. Who I learned was named as soon as, thanks for the host, as he took a bite into the hey Jess, welcome. As soon as he took a bite into the turnover, making some magic peach turnovers. Oh, don't worry about it. I'm doing okay. Yesterday was a little bit of an event, but today is good. As soon as he took a bite into the turnover, the bruises on his arms. Yeah, feed those cats. Oh god, I didn't feed my cats. I'm gonna finish this entry and then I'm gonna go do that. It's about time for a break anyway. Started to heal. It was magic. Are you a witch? Fedence asked me. I suppose I might be. I responded. This is all very new to me. I only recently learned that magic existed at all. Ferenc, the innkeeper, and his spouse, I don't know, and the innkeeper's, let's just make it extremely clear whose spouse it is, innkeeper's spouse. Yeah, there's my hungry cats. Ferenc, the innkeeper, and the innkeeper's spouse explained to me that in the region of, I just want to double check I am not mistranslating a word, because my Hungarian is not the best. It's not English. Oh, is that not a word? just... the word I'm thinking about is Hortobad. Which I guess is a region. I thought it was... Oh no, that's Pusta, the word I was thinking. Alright, let's call it Hortobad. Because, you know, let's just name it a place that exists in Hungary. Maybe this is just like slightly fantasy Hungary. It's not, but we're gonna call it that. Ooh. This is intense and I like it. I just want regular... There we go. In the region of Hortobad. The... magic had been all but outlawed. Hey Scrat, I am super glad that you love that form. I really like, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's the tabletop RPG digital consent form that I made. I think I have a link for it somewhere. I can pull one up. It is, it's a really good, the consent form is a really good resource, I think, but the problem, and I have this problem with a lot of like, oh really? I'm so glad to hear that you're gonna replace it. Yeah, I don't know if I personally would replace a lines and veil sheet, but I think I would definitely want to combine it with it. Like, I would give it to the table and then consolidate that into a lines and veil sheet after, so that as things come up, you could add to that lines and veil sheet without having to go through the form again, and also so everybody can see it. But yeah, I really love the consent form, but my problem with it was that it was very physical, and even if they had a form fillable version, there wasn't really any way to make it anonymous in a way that I felt good about. And so I, as I do, play with spreadsheets and Google Docs and Google Forms and stuff, and decided to to make something that works that way. And I think it's in the Tabletop RPG Safeties Toolkit, so I think I'll just put a link there. So if you want to check it out, it's there. It's called the Digital TTRPG Consent Form. But yeah, I'm super glad that you like it, and I'm super glad that you're going to use it. I heard it was translated into Korean, and that it's been like pretty well accepted in the Korean online gaming world, so that's kind of rad. But yeah. All right, I gotta finish this this entry. So where were we? Oh, thank you for the host, Scrat. Are you a witch? Fenance asked me. I suppose I might be, I responded. This is all very new to me. I only recently learned that magic existed at all. Ferenc, the innkeeper, and the innkeeper's spouse explained to me that in the region of Hortobadi, magic had been all but outlawed by the Herzog. Let's just call them princes. We don't need to make everything super Hungarian. Although I am enjoying this. Only a select few could use it. But here in Kurish, let's call it Kurish, where this town was, where I am now, it is much more common, and many villages have a witch. They told me that it had been many years since the village of Tiza had a witch, and if I had nowhere to go, then I should stay here. And live in the house in the clearing. I guess if both the house and the people in the village were giving me permission, then I had found my new home. Yakyu, Sangyun, who is a Korean game designer living in America, and a very, very cool person, was talking about how in Korea they play a lot of games online, and so having that kind of digital consent form would be really, really useful for be really, really useful for that community. And so he translated it all, which I think is super cool. We have a lot of people here now, so I'm gonna and a lot of new folks, so I'll do a little bit of a refresher about what's going on. We are playing with the character Zsofia, who I've been playing with for the past 3 games. This is the 3rd game that I'm playing with her. We made her in session 0. We discovered a bit more of her story in The Land Whispers, and now we are watching her discover her magic in Steading. She had just left early in the morning. Her friends, Lajos and Josef and baby Zoltan. And before I started playing the game proper, I did a little entry, just kind of tying them together. This is what it is. So today I walked. I have been walking for many days, but today felt significant enough to write about. There isn't any sign of people or settlements on the path I walk, but it feels strange. A long grassy path cutting through the forest. The air feels familiar, like it used to in my old home before we broke the circle. I think it must be magic. I spent so long sleeping in the ground and drinking that well water, it feels like maybe the magic has seeped into me. I wonder if it is a part of Lajos and Josef now, too. I wonder if it had any effect on little Zoltan. 25th day of the sun. And this is the beginning step, which we just finished writing. The beginning step in the game is where you describe your steading and you describe your magic. Today, the path opened up into a clearing. It was a beautiful meadow with the same grasses and flowers that lined the path. It was almost like the path was spilling out into the forest and changing the land itself. Now I know it must have been magic. Then the path went through a small copse of birch trees towards a village. But what was most interesting was the cottage in the middle of the field. The cottage looked to be in good repair and totally abandoned. I walked up to the door and knocked, but as soon as I touched the wood, intricate patterns of light appeared all over the house, and the door seemed to open with a sigh. This is your house now. I could hardly believe the voice I heard in my head. It sounded kind and warm and almost grandfatherly. I wasn't going to believe a talking house just like that, so I went towards the town to see if anyone knew about it. I went into an inn and offered to make dessert in exchange for the rest of my meal, and maybe even a place to stay. This town has peaches. How many years has it been since I've had a peach? At least 2, maybe 3. As I was making the turnovers, an injured man came into town. He explained that there had been some kind of plowing accident. The innkeeper's spouse quickly went to work tending to the man's wounds. I had just taken my turnovers out of the oven when the farmer was finished being patched up. I offered one to the man, who I learned was named Ferenc. As soon as he took a bite into the turnover, the bruises on his arms started to heal. It was magic. Are you a witch? Ferenc asked me. I suppose I might be, I responded. This is all very new to me. I only recently learned that magic existed at all. Ferenc, the innkeeper, and the innkeeper's spouse explained to me that in the region of Hortobad, magic had been all but outlawed by the princes. Only a select few could use it. But here in Kurish, where I am now, it is much more common, and many villages have a witch. This is the region of Kurish. The town is not called Kurish. They told me that it had been many years since the village of Tisa had had a witch, and if I had nowhere to go, then I should stay here and live in the house in the clearing. I guess if both the house and the village were giving me permission, then I had found my new home. So, now we have the first ritual. This is where we kind of start to get into the meat of the game. Many witches have dwelled here before you and left their marks on this place. A little bit of them is still here. Thank you for the sandwiches and also the bits. A little bit of them is still here, lingering in the air and the things they left behind. Perhaps in keepsakes, perhaps in something they've built, or perhaps simply the paths they've worn into the ground. To honor those that came before you and to greet the steading as you arrive, find some part of the steading where the presence of someone who came before you can still be felt. Describe what it is and what about it is showing its age. Write how you prepare your your ritual as appropriate to your method of magic, then roll your dice. Describe the outcome. So, I follow a really wonderful Hungarian folklorist on Twitter, Dr. Zalka Virag. Zalka Chenge Virag, I think is her full name. And she was telling a story, for an old Hungarian story about a magic piece of bread. The story is that somebody somebody had made a loaf of bread and put it in the window because they heard that it would protect them. So they put the loaf of bread in the window, and then one day, or maybe that same day, but at some point, a devil came through the window and tried to steal the little boy that lived in the house. And the bread started talking, and said, you can only take this boy if you go through everything that I went through to be made. You know, all of the chopping, like the grinding of the wheat and the chopping, and the kneading and the baking. And the devil got scared of all the things that, all these terrible things that were apparently being described to them. And maybe also a talking loaf of bread scared it. I don't know. But the devil ran away. And so the bread saved the day. And when she told me this story, I was like, I have to have this in Steading. Because I had a feeling that Zsofia was going to be a baker witch. So I think the first thing that people do when they make a new home is they make a loaf of bread, and they keep it in the window. And it's like it's not like, it's like a special loaf of bread. Like it's not a loaf of bread that is for eating. It's made with some kind of something to preserve it. But I think that is that is what her ritual is going to be. So now we got to roll some dice. And the way this game works is that you have, like really, really salty bread. Like Play-Doh, but bread. Like baked Play-Doh, shaped like bread. Excuse me while I pour myself a glass of water. Everybody drink some water. Water is useful. Dang, there be dice in this here game. I know. There are some dice. It's a very simple dice mechanic. It's extremely good. But you roll 2 6-sided dice. They're supposed to be different colors, but since I'm using Roll20, I'm just gonna have the first dice and the second dice. One of these dice is the witch dice. This represents Zsofia's magic and influence. The other dice is the Steading dice. It represents the Steading and the things in it and the magic it holds. You roll both dice, and whichever dice shows the higher result is the dominant magic. So if the witch dice shows the higher result, the magic is drawn out of the Steading and into you, and you are changed as a result. Write about how you are changed and what this feels like. If the Steading die is the higher result, the magic of the ritual is drawn from you and into the Steading, and it and or its associated elements, and it or they changed as a result. Write about how the Steading is changed and what is different about it now. If the result is equal on both dice, you have struck a balance, and both you and the Steading take on an aspect of each other. I think that's so great. It's so good. So we're gonna roll 2d6. The first dice is going to be the witch or the Zsofia dice, and the second dice is going to be the Steading dice. Oh, that is almost the wrong macro. There we go. All right, so I like this for her first, like, kind of real magic in the Steading, is that the magic comes in. So I think what's happening is that she starts to make this bread, and as she kneads the bread on, you know, whatever surface that she's kneading it on, the epic things happen. As she's kneading it into, I hope you could hear that epic music. If not, I'm sad. Yeah, I think as she's kneading this bread, the places on the counter where she's touching, she starts to feel like heat. Not like heat, but warmth. And her fingertips start to buzz, and then as she folds the dough, the energy from the house that has gone into into one hand, I guess it's like, yeah, like into one hand through her heart, so I guess this way, and then out the other hand she creates this kind of circuit of magic, and the magic goes into this bread dough that she's making. How has she changed? Things that were. Last night, I didn't get back to the cottage until late. I was so tired. I think they threw her a party. They're like, yeah, we have a witch in town. The innkeeper, Margit, threw a party to welcome my arrival. I was so tired at the end of the night. I fell into the bed, which seemed meticulously clean, despite how long it had been since I lived there. Or since anyone had, not her, since anyone had lived there. this morning, I spoke to the house again. I think what I imagine of her speaking to the house is she like sits up in bed and she doesn't really know what to do. This house just talked to her last time she touched it. So she's just kind of like, hello, house. Did I name somebody Attila? I thought I had. Now the house is named Attila. I wasn't sure how exactly to go about speaking to the house. So I just started talking to the air. It felt extremely silly. But eventually the decorative plate over my mantle responded. The plate explained that it contained the voice. I don't think the plate talked. It's not like Littlest Toaster talking plates. The voice explained that his name was Attila. And that he was the witch who used to live here. He had after he died, his spirit went into the house, the stones of the house itself. But since he did not have an apprentice anymore, he had given himself plate in order to commune with the next person that the house So I have like a old man plate roommate now named Attila. He was alive. I even used his very own mixing bowls to craft the bread of protection that I put in the window, in the kitchen window, while I was so he said it happened while I was kneading, right? So while I was kneading the bread, my hands felt warm and tingly, as if energy from the very house itself was somebody's home. Was as energy was coming into my fingers, through my body, and back into the bread. All the way through my left arm. I think there's like trails along her arm. Again with this, I thought I said no, not this, please. All the way through my left arm. The same intricate patterns. Although it's not through, it's across, I guess. The same intricate patterns that were on the door. Sorry, just 1 second. Same intricate patterns that were on the door. Appeared on my... appeared. I suddenly felt like I knew every other witch who had ever lived in this house. And that they were my family. It was nice and warm. I started making more bread of protection to give to Margit and They recommended that I sell it to the other villagers. I guess I will be baking lots more bread. All right. Gosh, this is a cute game. Zsofia's great. Zsofia might be one of my favorite people I've ever made. I might have to commission art of her. All right, second ritual. The things that dwell in the hidden corners of the world are drawn to the Steading. You are not the only one who makes their home here, and it is polite to greet your neighbors. To reach out to these spirits and make yourself known to them, you must first prepare a gift. Describe what it is and describe which manner of spirit you are giving to. What is this strange neighbor of yours like? Where in or around the Steading can they be found? What quirk or particular habit do they have? Does their magical nature match yours, or is it different? I like this like Copeland-esque music. Your spirit neighbor will accept the gift. All right, so I did a little more research just because I've decided to just make everything super Hungarian because I wanna. In Hungarian folklore, there's like a very, very important deer. It's called the miracle deer, or the Csodsarvás. And so this isn't the miracle, like the miracle deer, but that one was the it like led the Magyars to, or the Magyars, or whatever the anglicized version of it is, to like essentially the land of Hungary. Like it led, I don't know, it led some people to Hungary where they married some people, and then the original, like the first kings of Hungary happened or something. Like pre-Mongols, there were like 7 tribes that lived all in the area, and so a lot of the story, and their first king was named Arpad, I think. And so there's like a lot of history and like respect around these like 7 tribes. But yeah, I love the idea of a miracle deer, which is what Csodsarvás means. So we were saying this is like the 26th day of the sun. Let's make this the 30th. It's been, actually, let's make it a new month. Let's say this is the 4th day of, what month comes after the month of the sun? Probably, I imagine the month of the sun is like spring. So the day of flowers, I think. When the sun starts coming out again after, and the days start getting longer. I don't think it's a white stag. That's boring. It's black. Black doesn't have to be a scary color. And it's not a stag. It's a deer. Beautiful black doe. Around the edges of the meadow. Attila, I can't spell Attila, tells me that it is the shot of us. I missed an R in there. The chart for this area that I should offer my respects. What do you make for, like, deers don't eat bread. I think I'm gonna make a cake. A deer could like cake. Maybe, probably. I made I think I made like a red currant cake to offer to the deer. All right. Now I gotta roll some dice again. Remember, 1 is witch, 2 is steading. The steading wins. So this time the magic, or I changed the steading with my magic. Attila had been using the stove mostly as a kiln to cure or to fire his wares. And so I burned many attempts at this cake. I was getting so frustrated. That I sighed and slammed my fist on the door. That sounds dangerous, but I think she does it anyway. At that moment, a light came out of my fingertips and old ones on my left arm. I like the left arm because, like, that's the one, like, that's the side closest to your heart, right? So as if this magic is coming from her heart. These ones were a different color and style than the other markings. But they were, but I knew that they were mine. The oven, it's not the stove that he was using as a kiln, it would be the oven. The oven changed. The oven glowed with the same, I don't know what colors that is yet, same light. And when I opened the door, the inside looked just like the inside of my oven in Baratsk. After that, I was able to cook the cake to perfection, and the chadcharvas. Accepted it, the offering readily. Soon after, the berry bushes in the meadow bloomed. Grew much more fruitful, and the berries themselves gave anyone who ate them much more energy. It was a boon to the local farmers who ate my current cakes. I imagine this would be like a cute video game, like Baker Witch. You learn new recipes and you start selling them, and it like makes the town better. I'd play that video game. I mean, I'm kind of playing that video game right now, but I mean, it could be cute if it was like a little video game and it was like little pixel art. like if Graveyard Keeper were wholesome and about a baker witch as opposed to like whatever the heck Graveyard Keeper is. It's a dark game. Just to spur their energy on during the planting season. And what I really want to do is like do a million more of these because this is great. But it is almost 2 hours. So I think it's time to wrap it up. But I think Zsofia has found her home. I think she's really happy here. I think people really respect her here. I'm gonna write that. I think that I have truly found a place to call home. The villagers are friendly and welcoming, and I have more friends here than I have ever had anywhere else. I wrote to my parents and to Lajos and Joseph that I had finally figured out what I wanted to do with my life, and that if they ever needed me, they could find me in Tisa. That like really intense song keeps popping up, like, play me! They could find me in Tisa, except I spelled Tisa wrong. All right. Others may have, and this is the third ritual, things that will be. Others may have dwelt here before you, and you may be sharing your space with spirit neighbors and guests, but this is your steading now. This will be your home for years to come, and it is only right that you leave some sign of your presence within it. To mark the beginning of your days here, make a permanent symbol of yourself and place it somewhere within the steading. What would a baker make? I think this is again with salt dough. This is the 6th day of flowers. I spent the last few days making a very special salt dough and weaving it into a wreath. This wreath will hang outside the door. It contains it is fashioned with peach blossoms. It's not fashioned, it is shaped into peach blossoms and will serve as a sign that I am now open for business. All right, let's do our last roll. I win. I am changed. While I was baking and hanging while I was and I think this is, instead of like the magic flowing into me, some kind of like crazy or like mystical thing shaping. I think Attila just gives her advice, and she's learning from the magic of witches past and baking the wreath to shaping and baking the wreath. Attila gave me all sorts of very helpful advice about how to mold and shape the dough into I am very lucky to have a potter for a roommate in this cottage. Perhaps I will learn how to make more new things from the remnants of the rest of my new family while I live here. All right. That's it. That's our story. I'm gonna read the whole thing all the way through. but this was great. Gosh, just 3 for 3 amazing games. I have high hopes for the other 4 games in this bundle. One of them's mine, so I already know it's good. I'm not gonna be fake about, it's good. But yeah, so I've played Spoken Magic before too, so I know that's good. So I have high hopes for Lost and Like No One Ever Was. It's gonna be a great time. Yeah. I'll read this. 23rd day of the sun. Before. Today I walked. I have been walking for many days, but today felt significant enough to write about. There isn't any sign of people or settlements near on the path I walk, but it feels strange. A long grassy path cutting through the forest. The air here feels familiar, like it used to in my old home before we broke the circle. I think it must be magic. I spent so long sleeping in the ground and drinking that well water, it feels like maybe the magic has seeped into me. I wonder if it is a part of Lajos and Yosef now, too. I wonder if it had any effect on little Zoltan. 25th day of the sun. Beginnings. Today the path opened up onto a clearing. It was a beautiful meadow with the same grasses and flowers that lined the path. It was like a path was spilling out into the forest and changing the land itself. Now I know it must have been magic. Then the path went through a small copse of trees towards a village, but what was most interesting was the cottage in the middle of the field. The cottage looked to be in good repair and totally abandoned. I walked up to the door and knocked, but as soon as I touched the wood, intricate patterns of light appeared all over the house, and the door seemed to open with a sigh. This is your house now. I could hardly believe the voice I heard in my head. It sounded kind and warm and almost grandfatherly. I wasn't going to believe a talking house just like that, so I went towards the town to see if anyone knew about it. I went into an inn and offered to make dessert in exchange for the rest of my meal and maybe even a place to stay. This town has peaches. How many years has it been since I've had a peach? At least 2, maybe 3. As I was making turnovers, an injured man came into the tavern. He explained that there had been some kind of plowing accident. The innkeeper's spouse quickly went to the... I'm going to name the innkeeper's spouse Amisha. Quickly went to work tending to the man's wounds. I had just taken my turnovers out of the oven when the farmer was being patched up. I offered one to the man, who I learned was named Ferenc. As soon as he took a bite into the turnover, the bruises on his arms started to heal. It was magic. Are you a witch? Ferenc asked me. I suppose I might be, I responded. This is all very new to me. I only recently learned that magic existed at all. Ferenc, the innkeeper, and Amisha, the innkeeper's spouse, explained to me that in the region of Hortobag, magic has... Oh no, not Bagi. Of Hortobag. The magic had been all but outlawed by the princes. Only a select few could use it. But here in the region of Kurish, where I am now, it is much more common, and many villages have a witch. They told me that it had been many years since the village of Tiza had had a witch, and if I had nowhere to go, then I should stay here and live in the house in the clearing. I guess if both the house and the people in the village were giving me permission, then I had found my new home. 26th day of the sun. Things that were. Last night, I didn't get back into the cottage until late. The innkeeper Margit threw a party to welcome my arrival. I was so tired at the end of the night I fell into the bed, which seemed meticulously clean despite how long it had been since anyone had lived there. This morning I spoke to the house again. I wasn't sure exactly how to go about speaking to a house, so I just started talking into the air. It felt extremely silly, but eventually the decorative plate over my mantel responded. The voice explained that his name was Attila, and that he was the witch who used to live here. After he died, his spirit went into the stones of the house itself. But since he did not have an apprentice anymore, he had made the plate in order to commune with the next person that the house chose. He was a potter when he was alive. I even used his very own mixing bowls to craft the bread of protection that I put in the kitchen window. While I was kneading the bread, my hands felt warm and tingly, as if the energy from the very house itself was coming into my fingers through my body and back into the bread. All the way across my left arm, the same intricate patterns that were on the door appeared. I suddenly felt like I knew every other witch who had ever lived in this house, and that they were my family. It was nice and warm. I started making more bread of protection to give to Marguerite and Emiche. They recommended that I sell it to the other villagers. I guess I will be baking lots more bread. 4th day of flowers. Things that are. I've been seeing a beautiful black doe around the edges of the meadow. Attila tells me it is the Chodcharvash for this area, and that I should offer my respects. I made a red currant cake to offer to the deer. Attila had been using the oven mostly as a kiln to fire his wares, and so I burned many attempts at this cake. I was getting so frustrated that I sighed and slammed my fist on the door. At that moment, light came out of my fingertips, and new patterns weaved in with the old on my left arm. These ones were a different color and style than the other markings, but I knew they were mine. The oven glowed with the same light, and when I opened the door, the inside looked just like the inside of my oven in Badatsk. After that, I was able to cook the cake to perfection, and the Chodcharvas accepted the offering readily. Soon after, the berry bushes in the meadow grew. Soon after, the berry bushes in the meadow grew much more fruitful, and the berries themselves gave anyone who ate them much more energy. It was a boon to the local farmers who ate my currant cakes to spur their energy on during the planting season. I think that I have truly found a place to call home. The villagers are friendly and welcoming, and I have more friends here than I have ever had anywhere else. I wrote to my parents and to Lajos and Yosef that I had finally figured out what I wanted to do with my life, and that if they ever needed me, they could find me in Tiza. 6th day of flowers. What will be? I have spent the last few days making a very special salt dough and weaving it into a wreath. This wreath will hang outside the door. It is shaped into peach blossoms and will serve as a sign that I am now open for business. While I was shaping and baking the wreath, Attila gave me all sorts of very helpful information about how to mold and shape the dough. I am very lucky to have a potter for a roommate in this cottage. Perhaps I will learn to make more new things from the remnants of the rest of my new family while I live here. And that's Steading. Next week, I have to double check what we're doing next week, because I had to switch some stuff around. So, next week I will be playing Like No One Ever Was by Ronnie, a friend of the channel, or Geekologian on itch.io. That is a game that she used to try and mimic the feeling of Pokemon, which I'm really excited about. And I have kind of an idea about what I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna leave Zsofia for a little bit. And I'm gonna play the next 2 games with either Matyas or Ferenc. I haven't quite decided. But we're gonna because she's found home and the next two games are a little more adventure-y, I don't want to take her from her beautiful bakery house yet. So it's gonna still be in the world, but it'll be some new characters. But I will be back with this story on Monday. That's September 23rd. And I will be streaming Nancy Drew, Message in a Haunted Mansion, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. So you should definitely check that out if you like mysteries and point and click computer games, and also Nancy Drew. I think what I'm gonna do is figure out how to I think what we might do is raid. So if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much for watching. Do all the YouTube things, liking and subscribing and all that stuff. Check the link in the description for for the link to the Games for One or More bundle. They're great, like just really, really great games for $15, which is a super good deal. I just want to double check that oh yeah. So I'm gonna send y'all over to Little Cup of Joe. I wish I knew how to like do that. I think, but yeah, I'm gonna send y'all to Little Cup of Joe. And they are about to play some Omari High Ghost Club, which is their Monster of the Week campaign, based on the Japanese kind of like Ouija board game, Kokuri-san. It's full of good yokai fun times, and lots of it's a really fun game, so you should check that out. And I will see you all tomorrow, and if not, I will see you on Monday. Thanks so much. This is like good, like chill. Please wait. Well.